Garrick tries to steal a runabout. Dax threatens to lose Worf's Klingon operas. And between the Klingon War and the Borg attack, Starfleet is spread pretty thin. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Deep Space Nine's Season 5, Episode 14, In Purgatory's Shadow. Written by our good friends, superstars Ira Stephen Bear and Robert Hewitt Wolf. Directed by, don't know who this is, but an interesting name, Gabrielle Beaumont, which is good to know. I believe this was February 10th, 1997. A rare female director, which is awesome to see. How are you today?
Yeah, it is awesome to see, alongside with Kim Friedman, who was a guest on our show and holds it down. I'm looking up Gabrielle Beaumont because I'm interested to see her. I obviously wasn't in this episode, but just to put a face on the name. But yeah, I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing very well. Thank you very much. And everybody at home, thank you all for joining us today. Sit back, relax. It is fun time. It's your favorite time of the week. Unless you're one of those people that's like, yay, Friday, I'm off work. Then it's your second favorite time of the week. And we are glad you could join us. If you'd like to support us, please go to patreon.com/the seventh rule. Feel free to like us and follow us on social media. And please be sure to like and subscribe on these videos and this channel. Give us a 5-star rating. These are the best ways to support this content and to keep the show going so that we can continue having fun with you. And I think I've stalled long enough for Cirroc to have some answers.
Yes, well, she actually comes from England's part of the world. She's listed here as a British film director. No, but a British film. I said that part.
Roundabout. Got it.
Roundabout. But yeah, and it looks like I know her. Like I've seen her before. She just has this face that looks just like, I'm trying to see if I was another episode maybe that I was in, but she only did this one episode of Deep Space Nine. She just has a very familiar face.
However, she has 7 episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation, including one of my all-time favorites, Lower Decks. She directed Lower Decks.
Oh, wow.
She also directed Face of the Enemy, Imaginary Friend. I don't believe that's one of my favorites, if it's the one I'm thinking of. Disaster, Suddenly Human, The High Ground, and Booby Trap. And she has directed one episode of Star Trek Voyager, Blink of an Eye, in 2000. But yeah, just the one Deep Space Nine episode.
Yeah, but fantastic job, I think, in this episode. I love this episode. I mean, there were so many aspects of it that I thought were fantastic. And starting with just the premise that Ira and Robert came up with for this show, it just left me really, it was compelling. It kind of left me on the edge of my seat trying to figure out what's going to happen next. And they just kept throwing more. It could have been like 10 episodes, really.
Yeah.
Because it was like that much stuff thrown into it. And then I thought, why is this episode so good? Why is it a to be continued episode? Because, and then I looked, it says episode 14. So this is right through the mid-season point. This is when the writers, like Ira was telling us, are trying to get their ratings, hit the second half of the season and get the ratings up. So they deliver big bombshells around the 13, 14 episode midpoint, right?
Yeah, it really is a big episode. I mean, the budget didn't seem too terribly high, other than building a new set for the, internment camps or whatever it was, a detainment camp or something. But clearly, the second episode of this two-parter is probably going to be bigger budget. I mean, we see all these ships flying at the end, battle station. Yeah. I mean, this is basically that very last 10 seconds is kind of the moment we've been waiting for like 3 or 4 seasons, where the Dominion is officially showing up. They are coming in, And it's the moment that, the people at Deep Space Nine have feared, and it's the moment that the fans have been waiting for, But beyond that, I thought, like, the big scale of the writing, the fact that it's so big scale and there's all these twists and turns and, huge implications. What I found to be the coolest part, almost as usual, was the dialogue. There were so many really good, fun, powerful lines in there. There was humor. There was subtlety. That I really liked all the lines.
Yeah, right away I can tell you that in my notes I wrote down movie quality episode.
Yeah.
And this felt like a movie almost, right? There was so many developments, so many intricacies, but it was just movie quality in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The story was so grand, it was so much going on. The moment of anticipation that we had all been waiting for, which is like, where the hell is the Dominion? Where are the Jem'Hadar?
Right.
What are they taking them so long? What's their plans? All of that is getting scratched on the surface.
You know what Rom would call this episode? Movie quality. Anyway.
Oh God.
I'm sorry I interrupted you for that. That's my fault.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be better than that. I really did.
You did. Wow. Thank you.
I was giving you way too much credit. Yeah. But no, I have to agree with you as far as writing down the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you find yourself writing down exactly what the script says, that's when this is some good stuff here, because I have to write this. Like, this is so good. I have to write this down. Mm-hmm. We did it with the ship porn kind of talk that they were doing in the last episode.
Yeah.
And the bow and this and that, and turn the thrusters and release docking clamps, all of that stuff that I actually wrote down because it was so intricate. It was just so good. It was captivating once again. And so as I was watching this episode, I'm writing down episodes, writing down the dialogue, writing down words. I thought Worf had some hilarious moments in this.
Yeah.
When with the Klingon opera and Dax, there were just moments. This is the way he says things, right? Mm-hmm. You have a tendency to misplace things.
Yeah.
He was the way he pouts is so good, right? It's like,
yes. I mean, that's the thing. We can all admit it at this point. Worf is a powder. He's a powder. He's a little fussy. Yes. Most Klingons are like, they're big and they're excited and they're almost jovial. They're raucous. Worf is always like, he's mopey. He's like,
he's really,
you do not understand me. I'm different.
Yeah.
He's totally goth, man.
He's he's very sensitive. So you got to be careful with Worf because he gets really sensitive.
The emo Klingon, yeah.
So she jumps on that, right? She plays to that by, taking his most valuable possession, my Klingon operas. It's just like,
yeah.
He's so possessive. He's like the kid that takes his ball away when
when he doesn't get his way. It's like, well, I'm taking my ball and going home.
Well, the ball is mine. So he's just takes the ball away. So yeah, he's just really he's hilarious in this episode. I was excited because in the beginning I wrote down, Garak and Bashir are going on an adventure because it looked like they were setting them up. Bashir's on the ship already. It looked like they were setting it up for that. Mm-hmm. And I was excited. I was like, okay, here we go. This is going to be a great Bashir Garak episode. They're going to build their whole friendship. We're going to hear the back and forth between the two of them. I was ready for it. And then again, it hits me right away with a twist, right? Bashir's like, we're going back to Sisko's office. We can talk about it there. So boom, I got a twist off the bat, right?
Right.
And then it just kept, there were one twist after the other. What is this coded message? Oh, it's nothing, but then it really is something. And then the twist I just mentioned, and just kept coming twist after twist. And then when you finally got into the changeling thing, I was like, yo, this episode is like a movie.
This episode is fire, man.
This is fire right here. It's a great episode. So yeah, I liked everything about this episode.
Right. Even all three characters that were brought in at the, in the prison colony, were all twists, were all twist reveals. Like when we find out it's Tane, right? When Garrick, admits that's a twist. Then we see Martok and we're like, whoa, we thought Martok was dead. And there's a twist. And he's missing an eye, which is cool because all the fans always remember him as missing an eye, but this is where it happens. And then if it's even possible to have a bigger twist than all the preceding twists, we see Julian Bashir there and we're like, what?
I thought he was on the station. Did he hide it? That's what I'm thinking. Did he hide on the ship with them? Was he a stowaway and they didn't know he was in the back?
Right.
No, it's not. It wasn't even him at all. That was like another great twist.
Here's some interesting stuff with that. Now, our good friend and associate producer Marie Segal messaged us to reiterate, because this was a question that we had previously. I kind of danced around it because I didn't want to give any spoilers on it. But when did Sid know that this was going to be what happens with this character? Like, did they tell him a month ago so that he played Bashir differently? And supposedly the answer is, and this is why we'd love to have Ira or Robert on, supposedly the answer is he did not know until he saw the script. So they didn't, apparently didn't want him to play it any differently. Just be yourself, be the same, and then drop it here. And then once this happens and he's bringing them sandwiches, you do see a subtle change. He's like, I thought I'd bring you some sandwiches. It's almost like he's giving a wink to the camera, to us secretly. He's like, I'm going to give you guys some sandwiches. And they're like, that's so nice. And we're thinking he's acting differently. But would we have noticed it if we didn't have that previous scene? Probably not, right?
Probably not, right. And it also made me think about how many episodes prior to this that we watched was he the fake Bashir.
Right. And that was the other thing that Anne-Marie helped us out with, because this is something that we don't really know for sure. But one thing to notice is, if you'll look at the hair. No, look at the uniform. He's wearing the uniform that they changed like 4 episodes ago. Remember, they had the blue on top and now they're in the gray. And he's wearing a uniform that's been obsolete, that hasn't been used in about 4 episodes. So we know it's been at least 4 episodes ago, at least a month or more.
And this is where the writers get super kudos for putting this jigsaw together in front of our face in this very clever way with the uniform. Nobody knew what the uniform change was about. It didn't have any real significant meaning, but now it gives us a time marker for this kind of event, which is why they specifically put him in that uniform, right? He says he was on a science mission in some province somewhere, and then they snatched him up, right? I think that's why I have to credit the writers. I want to take my hat off once again to Ira and Robert Wolf for just being so brilliant at their clever ways of putting stories together. They take their diversions every once in a while off of the main story of the Dominion, and they go off into these tangents about who Odo is or Kira giving birth, but they still make sense in the overall development of the show and also the development of the characters' interrelationships. So I'm very pleased by this season. I love the way they brought Noggin as an ensign onto the bridge. Yeah. So we're watching so many things kind of unfold really quickly. And now here we are dead center in the middle of an invasion of a Pearl Harbor level attack on DS9. And it's going down. So I wrote down so many positives about this episode. Also the costumes. Want to say shout out to Bob Blackmon for just putting together some really great stuff. I thought Garrick was wearing some amazing pieces. I had to
hang on, let me
little Garrick love right there.
Gorgeous.
He was wearing some sharp stuff.
And I saw you gave it an A+ next to it, right?
A+. Fashion wise. The guy's just styling. Yeah, man, this episode was just so good. It was started off on a great pace. It's one of those adventures. I I mentioned earlier that I like these adventure stories. I thought the Eddington story is kind of like an adventure story. It's, it's layered with this whole morality and this whole dilemma about which decisions to make between right and wrong. But it's also an adventure at the same time. So it's a combination of the two, which is what makes it excellent. If it was just one or the other, it may be lacking. But the fact that it's just both gives it just such a higher bar for me. And this one is one of those episodes.
Mm-hmm. If Eddington were a cartoon, he'd be called Eddington Bear. Remember that?
Oh gosh, yeah, I remember.
I do wish. I hope Ira and Robert remember the moment in the writers' room or wherever it came up where they're like, "What should we have Bashir wear?" Because they're probably thinking he's going to a conference. Maybe they just put him in regular plain clothes. But someone at some point said, "Let's put him in the old uniform." And everybody that heard that was like, "Oh yeah, that's been great." You know what I mean? And I hope they remember that moment, whether it was somebody by themselves and then they mentioned it to him later, or whether it was all in the writer's room. That I think that's a really good detail. And it's one of those things that when you stumble on it or when you think of it, it's like it's gold, I like that.
Yeah, it is gold. And in the intro, I thought you were going to say something about Odo sliding out of bed, maybe sliding into the DMs, but I didn't hear the reference.
Yeah, he's sliding out of bed and into Kira's DMs because she was like, well, I don't know. There are a lot of people, blink, 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 that would be happy to take you out on a date, Odo, blink, blink, blink. He's like, I don't know. I'm grumble, grumble, grumble. It's kind of like the thing with like Worf and Dax, where he's being a fussy Freddy, and there's a perfect lady for him right there that, is at the very least his equal or more, and is just we think it's a perfect match. We're like, go Odo and Kira, go Dax and Worf. And he's sitting there just being all fussy, talking about slipping out of bed and being all slimy and stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was, and it's great too, because it's like he actually secretly got what he really wanted. I don't think he wanted to be a solid. I think he likes being the shapeshifter, and I didn't think he really, really wanted to be. He might have wanted to experience it, like what it was like to eat and drink and whatever it was, sleep, whatever it is that he didn't do differently. But I think that he lost his identity with it, and so he's happy now, even though he's all grumpy about it. He's happy now that he has that option.
Yeah, and something interesting there was that we weren't 100% sure, at least I wasn't, that
if he had that ability for
if it was just a temporary thing until the baby changeling died, or if somehow this baby changeling that could barely come together into a ball could give this gift, now obviously that seems a little far-fetched, but what do we know about what it means to be changeling? They can do anything. They can sense things. They can do things that we can't, so of course, sure, you can do whatever you want there. But I will say there was a hint in that episode, because I remember thinking, is that how he gets to be a changeling again? And I couldn't remember. But when he goes to turn into a hawk or whatever it was, he sheds his clothing, turned into a hawk, flies, he lands, he turns back into Odo with clothing on. So he wouldn't have been able to do that if it was just a temporary thing. You see what I'm saying?
I didn't pay attention to this.
So that was my hint when I saw that. Yeah, he's like leaving the infirmary or whatever, and he like kind of sheds his clothing and turned into a hawk and flies. Then when he comes back, he's got clothing again, telling us that he's now a changeling. At least that was the hint that I picked up on, but I still wasn't totally sure. It could just be an inconsistency.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either after watching that episode if it was just a one-time thing. Is this like, you just get to experience it once again and just feel what it's like to be a changeling one last time on my way to the afterlife? Or did he get his powers back? And now we know he got his powers back. So it's actually explained a little bit too. I was happy to know that.
Mm-hmm. So that's Odo's story, and there's gonna be a lot more with that coming up. Obviously it was just kind of like a little side thing. There were so many things. There's so many storylines.
Well, we didn't even talk about Zial.
Exactly.
There was the whole
30-year-old Zial all of a sudden.
Yeah, and who's finding her own maturity and growing into being an independent woman and kind of having to stand up to her dad, and that's another whole just a side story that was going on, and Dukat not being approving of Garrick, and the two of them just even commiserating. Right, I don't even know what the level of their relationship is at this point, but they have some kind of friendship. They have some kind of bond. He feels like he's able to promise her things, and I'll return and this and that, and so there's some kind of special bond there.
Right.
I'm not exactly sure what it is, but Dukat clearly doesn't like it, and they went into this in this episode. They show him. I mean, there was a moment where he was like kind of ruthless to her, right? He was like, "Yeah, okay, you stay, and die or something."
Yeah, you deal with it. You just sit here and rot.
Rot. Good luck with your life.
Yeah,
that's it. I'm done with you. It was just like he was cold-blooded in this episode a little bit. It looks like he's trying to do the right thing by her, because he is trying to save her from this onslaught of the Dominion. He knows what's coming, and he knows the attack is imminent. So he's kind of trying to be a good dad. So I wanted to give him. I kind of felt for him in that moment. Like, what would any dad do if they had a kid and their only kid is about to be in the middle of the biggest war in that sector? And you'd want to get them out into safety, right? Your first instinct would be to protect them. And so I actually thought he was doing the right dad move.
But maybe just for the wrong reasons. Yeah.
For the wrong reasons. Yeah, for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, there was actually something I thought that Dukat did very well as a father, where I was like, wow, there were some very reasonable moments from Dukat, I thought. We'll have to talk about on the other side of the break, because we're going to take the break in just less than a minute. But one thing I did notice was when you said cold-hearted or cold-blooded, it reminded me of when Kira says, something about Garrick. She's like, oh, well, he's a Cardassian. And Dukat says, he's a terrible, heartless, cold-blooded murderer. And she says, like I said, he's a Cardassian. Hey.
Yeah. Whatever. Yes, I wrote that down too. I thought that was a great interchange between the two of them, because they're able to talk openly about stuff with each other like that. And he actually threatens Kira, and he's like, yeah, there was a time when the Bajorans would take our threats seriously. And oh God.
And she said, she went like this. She went, not anymore. Snip. She just totally snipped.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can tell he's pissed about that. So he's like, I got to do something. Yeah. But yeah, there was some good interplay between Dukat and Kira in this episode, between Zial and Dukat. Just all these side moments. And I found myself really running the gambit of emotions, from like laughing to being really concerned to really tearing up sometimes. I was like, wow, this episode's got all of it.
And they squeezed it all into one episode. So we're going to take the quickest break ever, and we're going to come right back on the other side of this on the Seventh Rule. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton. You may have guessed.
Hello.
We are doing a review of Deep Space Nine, Season 5, Episode 14, in Purgatory's Shadow. Very quickly, here are the Trivioids that may or may not have made the cutting room floor. Kira helps Odo move. Odo only read 3 chapters of a romance novel, although I don't remember if it was 3 pages or 3 chapters. I thought it was chapters. Garrick interrupts Julian and Zial. Garrick tries to steal a runabout. Dax threatens to lose Worf's Klingon operas. Garrick accuses Dukat of being a chiropractor. That was really good when he holds him back. And then Garrick comes back up. He's like, I think that might have actually helped my back. Thank you.
Thank you.
What a dick. Garak wants Worf to sponsor his application to Starfleet Academy. Kira took Zial to services at the Bajoran Shrine. Garak wants to talk to this fellow Earl Grey, and talk to him about tea leaves, I think it was. Between the Klingon War and the Borg attack, Starfleet spread pretty thin. The Breen have no blood. That's something I hadn't heard before, but in this episode they mentioned the Breen have no blood. I don't remember hearing that. Bashir was kidnapped at a burn treatment conference on Mizan 4. Martok was kidnapped while hunting Saber Bear out in King's Summit. And lastly, Deep Space Nine tries to close the wormhole. One of those was what I thought was a pretty good example of Dukat being a good father. When Dukat is talking to Major Kira and saying, like, Major, I don't want her talking to that man, or whatever the hell he's saying, right? And or staying here, or he was mad at her. And Kira says, is this about me taking her to the services on Bajor? And he says, no, not at all.
She's half Bajoran, of course.
Yeah, he's like, she's half Bajoran. Of course she should, look into her heritage and all that. And I was like, Dukat, that is surprisingly reasonable of you. He's like, I don't give a shit. I just don't want her talking to that asshole over there.
Just don't want her dealing with that guy that I hate right there.
Yeah.
That's the only deal right there. I don't care about all this other stuff. Yeah. She can love whoever she wants to love, just not him. And I thought that was pretty so he's actually being a protective, reasonable father. Once again, I have to say, it's just, but when you try to tell somebody who they can be with or who they can't be with, it's, you're going to run into this. Yeah, you're going to run into this. And that's what's happening here with Dukat. But, there was another thing that I thought was kind of funny because Garak, for one, when Dukat was calling him out and really manhandling him, saying, stay away from her. And his daughter was saying, hey, leave him alone. We're friends and this and that. Garak said public opinion seems to be running against you. And that was just
such a poetic way to speak. They speak in such poetry. Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yes. And then another moment is when Garak said, when he was asking Worf to be his, to write him a recommendation in the Starfleet, and he says, maybe you can suggest you'd like to work under me,
Yeah.
Like who says that?
So good.
He's so good. And then he goes on to say, lying is a skill you have to practice just like everything else. I mean, he's so good at playing this character who's like a habitual liar, and even honest about it, right? Open about his lying. He'll even lies when he's telling the truth. I think there's a famous saying: "I even lie when I tell the truth even when I lie."
Yeah,
that's the saying. But I thought he goes into it when he starts saying lying is a skill, and then you see him using those lies right away when they get caught, right?
Yeah.
Jemadar comes in and he's like, hey, it's nice to see you.
Hey, here we are.
How did we get to the wormhole? We're lost. He doesn't even miss a beat, right? He doesn't look scared for a second and said, what am I going to do? He comes right in, hey, welcome. I'm so glad to see you guys.
Now, that is a friend. We all have had this friend that you don't want to be around when the cops show up. Because the first thing he's going to be like, oh, you, my friend over here. Like, whoa, dude.
Yeah.
I thought we were in this together, man.
No. No, you're not. So, yeah, I just think his lines were really great. I love the way he delivers it. I love the way he's really big with his talk. And then I thought another line that Worf had that just jumped out at me that I thought was just spectacular. He is telling Sisko, I'm going to keep my eye on Garak, then he gets all...
Oh, this was such a good exchange.
Yes, I know you have it somewhere. He was talking about keeping his eye on Garak, and Sisko says something to him like, yeah, just make sure he doesn't get into anything, and...
Yeah, this is what he says. Because first Worf kind of talks a little jive about him, and Sisko says, well, keep an eye on him. And Worf says,
yeah.
At the first sight of betrayal, I will kill him, but I will bring the body back intact. Right? And it's like, don't worry, I'll bring the body back intact. And Sisko says, I assume that's a joke. And Worf, of course, says, we will see. Very good.
Yes.
Excellent stuff.
Excellent stuff. And then they wrote even small moments between like the Jem'Hadar and Worf, when they said, I was waiting for another Klingon, waiting for another one of you Klingons. The way he delivered it, was just like like, damn, you messed up. You're in the worst place ever right now.
Yeah, and you just stepped in the snake's pit.
Yeah, and we're gonna test you so hard. You're gonna break. And so that's what I felt, at least.
Yeah. Now we do understand where Garak gets his lying gene, right? Because apparently he gets it from his dad, who we just find out Abram Tain is his dad, and we only find out on his dying deathbed. Although Tain doesn't exactly admit to it, but he does kind of allude, saying, do you remember that one day you were 5 or whatever? And of course, the beautiful line, which is Garak says, "Of course I remember it. It was the only day." So that apparently was the only time that he actually acted, like father and son for that one moment. And there was also
that scene really moved me a lot. I was kind of moved to tears in that moment. I was like, wow, this is a really touching scene. The fact that Bashir was there to hear it and kind of get an insight to the truth behind Garak. Actually, the curtain kind of got pulled back, and Bashir got some insight on who Garak really is and the kind of deep mental scars and anguish that he's been dealing with by not having a father who loves or accepts him. So I thought that was kind of a big moment.
And Garak wanted him to know, because when Tain said, "Are you alone?" Garak could have been like, fuck off, Julian. But he says yes, and he looks at him, basically saying, I want you here in this moment. That's a friendship move. He's saying, you're my friend, I want you here. And also, he's a liar, so he's going to just keep lying. Garak lies so much, he even lies in bed. But
my gosh.
No, but there was that great moment where
Tain, it was a great moment
where Tain is saying, what about that Romulan ambassador? And what about this person? What about that person? And Garak says, all of your enemies are gone. And for a Cardassian, apparently, that's the moment.
Then he says, unless you consider me an enemy, which I thought was another great follow-up. Because he's really trying to get in validation from his dad at this whole thing, right? The whole thing is about just I wish you, like in the beginning when he first sees him, he's like, oh, where's the reinforcements? Where's everybody? He's like, it's just me. I just came, just me and Warp. He's like, oh God. So we're both screwed. We're both screwed.
Oh man.
And he's like, well, what did you want me to say? And he's like, well, I wanted you to say thank you for coming this way and how honorable of you to, risk your life to come and save me. But that wasn't, and that's the thing. Garak, like his father, doesn't say what you want them to say, right? That's the other kind of father-son thing that they have. They won't give the truth away. They withhold it from you, and they won't say what you want to hear. They'll actually sometimes say the truth that is so blaringly obvious that it's hurtful, right? He's like, now we're both stuck and we're both going to die. Thanks a lot. You didn't do anything. And that's actually how Garak would have said it, right? He would have said the same thing. Like, I thought you were helping. You're not even helping. But just getting that validation from his dad and saying, at least claim ownership to me, at least, acknowledge the truth that we both know is true, which is that you're my dad. I thought that was a great moment there.
Yeah, and he gave him a little bit at the end there. He never fully admitted it, but like we mentioned, he did kind of say, okay, well, you remember that one time, and I was so proud of you.
Yeah, he said, I'm so proud of you. Yeah.
So that's the best Garak is going to get, and that's it. And it's also cool that Tane dies just from a story standpoint, because otherwise, with all of those characters trying to make the Great Escape, it might get a little clunky. It might be weird that, like, look, there's Worf. I'm sorry, there's Bashir, there's Martok, there's Tane. They have that Breen that's always napping. There's that Romulan lady. Like, some of them have to kind of whittle down. Otherwise, it becomes like too big of a story in that one location. But I was also find myself kind of thinking about what a cool little crew that was before Worf and Garak showed up, with Bashir and Martok and Tane, and then like the Breen and Romulan. That's kind of, I wish they would have had an episode of just them, even if it's just like a flashback episode of Bashir remembering or something like that. Because there's some crazy stories that they have to tell from being in there. Martok was there for 2 years.
Yeah. He's 2 years. Yeah, he's missing an eye. He's obviously fighting every day. And with Bashir, I don't know. I guess the message was sent out before Bashir arrived there, because Bashir is a newer arrival, right, to this group.
Probably a month or two. Yeah,
a month or two. Yeah, so maybe this message was sent out before he even arrived, because I would think that he would have knowledge of it if he was there when it was sent out. So that's one thing. But the other thing I think is, you're right, they had to put some closure on it, and they did put closure on it right away, because as soon as Garak sees that his dad dies, and he's like, well, my work here is done. Like, okay. Like, I've fulfilled my commitment. I'm ready to go, whatever you guys are. So that was kind of the way they just put a nice little cap on it. The other thing is, though, there was a lines by Dukat, and I said earlier that he was kind of cold. Mm-hmm. And the moments that I thought where he was the coldest was when they were in Sisko's office, and they were saying, we're going to have to shut the wormhole down and close it, otherwise the
casualties of war.
Casualties of war, guys. And he said it so matter of fact, like, too bad for them.
Well, because he was a little happy about it, yeah. He was like, oh, well, darn, I guess that's just the way it's going to have to be. Mm. Oh, well. He's like, do we desiccate their remains? Is that? No, that's the Ferengi. Well, whatever. We'll figure it out.
We'll think about that. We'll do that later.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the way he said it, he was just so casual about it. Casualties of war. And I just, this guy's cold. And then the other time he said it, when he finally got pissed at his daughter, and he was like, you stay here and be damned. That's what he said. Stay here and be damned. And he gave her this cold look and walked away. And I'm like, wow. He just committed he just damned her and put her in damnation.
Damn.
So, yeah.
That's, I mean, exactly. And, we're starting to think that might be his favorite child. I mean, he's got I don't remember how many kids he has, like 5 or 6 or 7, something crazy like that. But I'll bet you Zial is his favorite, because she's the one that's different. She's the one he can kind of escape to. Like, at home, he seems like maybe he's not the most happy person with his wife and with his kids. He kind of seems like, he's maybe not the happiest man at home. And visiting Zial is almost like, you're my special home away from home, or something like that. So I definitely feel like there's a special bond he has there. And even with her, he's like, well, I don't care if you're my favorite. I don't care. Bye.
I not only think that it's just a bond that he has with her, I also think he has a bond with the station itself. I think that, he's been there long enough. He was there before this Federation got there, and he looks at it like that's his home court. He just had to forfeit it over, but that's his home court. So I think just to have a reason to go over there and kind of mosey around and strike fear into everybody, he kind of enjoys that little edge that he has up on people. Like, I'm still the boss here. I'm still the warden around here. Mm-hmm. There's a little element of that, and I also think there's an element of he actually has a little bit of infatuation with Kira, and he finds reasons to come over there.
A little bit.
just say something to her, because all his scenes are like just like he likes going back, and they have arguments like a couple basically, right? Even
Oh,
though they're
it's
not, but they
all
have kind of
foreplay to this
arguments.
guy. Yeah. He
Yeah,
thinks this is
yeah.
all foreplay.
He thinks he's in there with these arguments, and she's
Hmm.
like, "You have no chance in hell." And it's like, so there is a chance, right? Uh, so yeah, that's the thing I got. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the. They came up with three ship names that had disappeared into this mix, and were they any ships that were known by us or talked about prior?
I don't think so. And I didn't write down the names, although I remember the third one was called the Sarajevo, just because I picture that.
Yeah,
I think that's a city in former Yugoslavia, but I don't remember which country it
yeah.
is. Maybe in
It's on the
Serbia,
Eastern Bloc for sure. Yeah,
Serbia or Croatia.
Sarajevo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But
near there.
I don't remember the first two. The first two might have been like a Romulan ship and a Klingon ship or something
It
like
was the
that.
Maryland, the Maryland, the Proxima, and the Sarajevo.
Okay. So maybe the Proxima
Yeah,
was, but definitely the Maryland, I'm guessing, was a Federation ship.
it has to be right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I picked up on Sarajevo too. I was like, oh, they picked that word, Sarajevo.
Bosnia Herzegovina. That's where it is. Bosnia.
Bosnia, yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
Okay. Now there was another thing too that another moment with great lines I wanted to point out, which was when Garrick is talking to Worf in the runabout, and Worf wants to leave, and Garrick is trying to push him by using that H word, honor. He says, it's the honorable thing to do, to stay here and
Yeah,
go after those ships, just like what you mentioned. It's the honorable thing to do. And Worf says, you use that word, but you have no idea what it means. And then Garrick, with the perfect line, says, maybe not, but you do.
but you do.
Ah,
Yeah, I mean,
excellent dialogue.
just as far as like playing mind games, he's such a psychological master manipulator. He knows how to
Mm.
play these mind games to get what he wants out of people, even when they know he's lying or trying to fraud them. He still he still gets you to react or behave the way he wants.
Hmm.
It's just an amazing skill, and I think he's got more skills at that than Quark, who would probably be the second best at it, right? Because he monetizes it. But I just think Garrick is even better than Quark because he manipulates in this way that you have to just you have to agree with it. Like he forces you into a mental dilemma where you're questioning your own values if you go against what he's saying.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're right. Those two are the biggest manipulators. Dukat is probably third, but it's different with Dukat because he's much more conflicted. Whereas Quark, he's just trying to make money. And Garrick, they have different motivations, though, right? Because Quark is manipulating you for money. Garrick is
Right.
manipulating you usually on a case by case basis. Usually it's for whatever his best interests are at the time, whether it's to gain an upper hand or whether it's to convince you to save his dad or whatever it is. He's also conflicted in that he has different motivations every time, and sometimes it's not even his own best interest, because if you'll recall, like one time when they were in the Gamma Quadrant and he was trying to blow up the Defiant or whatever, and or shoot the founder's homeworld, and they caught him and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing? He's like, oh yeah, we would all die, but we'll save the Alpha Quadrant. So
Mm-hmm.
his motivations are always different. That's what makes him such an interesting character.
That's why he's so dynamic, and you really never know where his allegiance truly lies, right? You don't
Right.
know who he's protecting and why.
Mhm.
And so he's so mysterious about it that in this episode, for example, this whole thing is about his dad. So really, Sisko calls him into the office. He's like, hey, we heard this message, right? And he knows it's his dad and that he wants to go find him. right? So it's not even about the Jem'Hadar and the prison colony and all this. I mean, not to him. To him, it's just my dad needs me. I'm gonna, I promised that I would be there no matter what, and this is gonna be one of those no matter what situations. All that other stuff about Bashir and this and that, those are things we find out
Right.
later because of his own selfishness. We actually are uncovering the biggest threat, and it's fortunate for them to be victims of his selfishness, because essentially DS9 is able to prepare itself for what is going to be an upcoming invasion, right? So they got a little bit of a heads up or a head start notice, which would have been a complete surprise attack if they didn't, right?
Yes. Right.
So
And
Garrick, in a very first way, in a very selfishly motivated way, has has alerted DS9
right.
to what the hell's about to go on, right?
Right.
It's good.
And Kira went and verified it. Just a nice little moment for
Right.
her, where he just kind of, Sisko sends out Kira real quick. He's like, hey, can you go verify something for me? And just super quick and easy, good storytelling. She just comes back and she just has one word. I don't remember what that one word was, but it was something like trouble or something, like it might have been trouble, but he says, what did you find? And she said trouble, or whatever that one word was. That's it. That was, as far as an actor is concerned, that whole scene setup, the lighting, the setting up the cameras, all that was just for that one line. Okay, ready, action, trouble, right? And that's cut, moving on, right? And
yep.
And it's hard to deliver that one line right, because you're not feeding off of anyone. It's just like the AD or the script supervisor's feeding you the line. But of course, it was great, and it was a powerful moment. And
one more thing I wanted to add too.
Yeah.
Another thing that's looming in the background is Worf, son of Moog. When his family has pretty much lost all their honor in the Klingon Empire, and now he has the opportunity, whether completely by happenstance, to find some sort of redemption by bringing General Martok back to.
That's a great point.
To the mix, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm seeing that he has this potential.
Right. He's going to come back and be like, how do you like me now?
How you like me now? Like, you're welcome. I brought back a guy. And you guys have been lied to. So I think everybody has a little something in this storyline, a little nugget in this. Everybody has their foot in this pot a little bit, or their hand in this jar. And that's what makes so much at stake. And so it just makes it so all-encompassing with this impending attack.
I just thought of something about 40 minutes too late, but do you think that, well, how, like, if anybody that's ever had a cat knows that cats love to kill a rat or a bird and like leave it on the doorstep of your home or give it to you. They act like it's a gift. They act like they're like, see, look at what I got for you. Look at this wonderful thing. Do you think that if Worf killed Garrick, he would present him like that to Sisko? Like Worf would just carry Garrick in and be like, like, see, look at this gift I bestowed upon your station, Captain Sisko. I don't know. I picture that.
Possible. He would either do that. I don't know who would appreciate it more, Sisko or Dukat. I think Dukat would like it
you're
more.
right.
More of a gift to him.
Dukat would bathe in Garrick's dead body. He'd be like, let me just, this is so good.
If they had the Ferengi customs of auctioning pieces of their body, I think he would definitely
claim it all.
He's like,
he would sell his family.
I'll take it. He'd be the highest bidder in the back with his card up, like, I'll take that. I'll take that. And I will stuff it and give it to my daughter, Zial, for her next birthday. Here you go. You like Garrick so much?
There you go. You can have him forever. You can have him forever.
Very good episode, though. Once again, like I said, had a little bit of everything. It had the comedy, it had the drama, it had the emotional scenes. It had the sensitivity, and then it had plot twist after plot twist after plot twist. And actually, one other thing I wanted to mention too is that, watching this episode gives me more context to Sid Dig and what Sid was doing with the Sid City and those readings that they were doing, the Alone Together series. I just felt like they took a lot of the elements from these shows, because I remember we talked about Brintain. We talked about a few of these concepts in that in his online Sid City. So kudos to Matt, who was actually writing all of that stuff and taking some of these concepts and expanding upon them. I thought it was really good, and this started to give me more clarity to where those concepts were coming from. For example, cool. the closeness of Bashir and Garrick were really expanded upon on the Alone Together series. So very good.
Now, there's one more exchange that I thought was really good, and it was when Bashir pulls the phaser on Garrick, basically saying, "I don't think so, Garrick." But it was when Julian says, "Let me get this straight. You want us to do this and do that and risk our lives and go and get all this stuff like that?" And then Garrick says, "I'm ready when you are." It's just like, it's brilliant. Now we've got to go to our free-for-all in just a minute here. But before we go, honestly, I couldn't find a nitpick. Maybe we'll think of one on the other side in the free-for-all. But before we go, Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score. It's a toughie. It's a toughie.
This is a toughie, but I loved it. And I want to say that it's like a 9. Like I'm up there to 9 level. Right. Almost. I'm ready to go up to 9. I may even go to 9.2 on this, but on my initial watching, there were moments when I thought it was a perfect 10. Actually, there were moments, but I'm comfortable at a 9.
It's an A+ episode. I agree. The IMDb score is an 8.9. So right on. You nailed that one. Nailed it.
Yeah.
Now, before we go over to the free-for-all, we want to give a very special thanks to, we also have a couple NAMs to give out on the other side. We'll see how that goes. Special thanks to Carmen Shamwell, PJ Thomas, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Bill Victor Arucan, Yvette Blackmon, Homer Frizzell, Eve England out in Wales, Titus Mohler, Tim Baum, Dr. Anne-Marie Segal, Dr. Susan B. Gruner, Dr. Mohamed Noor, John Mann, and Mark Roco. Thank you all. We are going to be right back on the 7th Rule with the free-for-all.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 7th Rules free-for-all, starring today Homer Frizzell, Eve England, Malissa Longo, Dr. Susan B. Gruner, Darlena Blander, Dr. Anne-Marie Segal, Titus Mohler, and of course our stars, Ryan T. Husk and Cirroc Lofton. Yay!
Hey, everybody. And you introduced yourself, right? You did say
Mohamed. I'm Mohamed Noor.
Hooray!
The one and only.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So first things first, guys. NAMs. We didn't go over the NAMs. Did you guys catch? There were 2 NAMs.
Which means what?
I only got one.
A non-appearance mention. IMDb gets all the appearances, but nobody really covers when somebody is mentioned, so we like to keep track of that. There were 2 non-appearance mentions today.
Ziel's mom was one. Because remember, he said something about like your mother.
Does that count? Was it by name?
I mean, that is a non-appearance mention.
That's awesome.
I didn't put it in, but yeah, that's a good one.
It was by name, wasn't it? Nice.
That's awesome.
Very good.
Yeah.
What's her
Very
name?
good. That's a bonus.
I don't think they said her name. I think they just said your mom.
I think
no, he said
no, I think they did.
Or something
Did they?
like that.
Oh, maybe so.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Otherwise, it wouldn't count.
Yeah.
They did say it. They did say it by name. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Awesome.
There's Nog. There's definitely Nog.
Yeah.
I missed Nog
Oh, I don't know who the other two
Ryan,
are.
were you sleeping on the job?
a little bit.
When's that happen?
They were talking to Nog when Garrick was saying about joining Starfleet, and he said, "Well, you know, you
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But they said
Yes.
Ferengi.
Oh, yes.
Oh wait.
Yeah.
I think they said
That's right. It's here. You're a Klingon.
They
Nog
did.
is a Ferengi. Yeah,
I
it's in the
love
script.
when you pull up the script.
Yes.
That is really extra bonus points there, Eve. You got it. Nog was mentioned, and I completely missed it too.
Yeah. We kind
Right
of
when
glazed
Kirk
over
hit
it.
that beat. Yep. So Nog, I think, must be leading in the NAMS category now because that's just one more.
Well, he is currently tied for first place with Keiko O'Brien at 12.
Okay.
And Rom has 10, Jake and Molly have 9, and Shakar has 3 appearances and 7 non-appearance mentions.
Amazing.
His
Wow.
ratio is out of
Oh my
control.
God, yeah, the ratio is really
Yeah, his
impressive.
ratio.
I love these stats. It's like ESPN.
So
Right.
so these were not on your list, right, Ryan? Is that
Correct.
what you're saying?
I meant yeah, I didn't get those.
So you missed Nog and you missed Zial's mom. So you're talking about 2 other people.
We all miss Nog.
I think we should have a bar graph with the NAMs.
That would be so fun.
Right?
So
Yes.
the ones I got by name, one was by name and one was not, was Kira Yoshi.
Mm.
So I believe that's Kira Yoshi's 3rd NAM already.
Yeah, he's dominating. For like amount of time we've known of his existence.
Yeah. For a 1-month-old.
And
1-month-old.
the other one was Garrick's mom, Mila.
Oh.
Mila, his mom.
Is that his mom or his
I think in books they go on to say that it is his mom, but in
Right.
the show.
Right. So I guess that's technically not canon. You're right. Because if it's in
Yeah.
books, it's not canon. That was revealed in A Stitch in Time, written by Andrew J. Robinson, my favorite Star Trek book.
Which is a book I consider canon then.
It's true. All right.
So just a quick question, because I don't think we ever really mentioned it, but would referring to Moog as the House of Moog, would that be a NAM or no?
Yeah, let's give that man a name.
But we've never met Moog.
Okay, just
Yeah, but we
just
know like
throwing
his
it
whole
out there.
family.
No,
It's like we know him.
not really.
I don't know. I kind of want him on the board.
I mean, it's not unheard of because we also
With an
hear
asterisk.
Quark, son of Keldar. Is it
yeah,
Keldar?
yeah, Keldar.
But does Keldar get a name?
I don't know if you put him on the board.
They should.
you?
It's not fair if we don't. Right?
And Singta should have gotten a NAM too.
Who?
Who?
Yeah, last week.
I did.
The informant or the contact that Sisko was going to meet.
Oh, Sing Time.
Oh, hilarious.
One and done.
Wait,
Yeah.
so did you put Mila? Did you put Garrick's mom and Mila as the same person, or are you keeping them separate?
Same person.
Maybe keep them separate, and then we can do the math.
Well, I don't know if Garrett's
like
mom
triggering
has
my
been
OCD.
mentioned before.
Yeah, but she will be later.
Titus, I'm sorry. I swear it's not always like this.
Just mostly.
Just mostly.
So, but yeah, Titus.
Was Galron mentioned at all in this episode? No.
Who?
Galron.
I thought so, but I don't remember exactly. When we're in the prison, I thought maybe they did, but it was just what the doppelganger was up to.
Yeah, I was
on the
expecting
script.
it too, but I didn't see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mohamed
Can
did a
you
quick
imagine how-
Control F,
Yep.
Command F. Yeah.
Control F, Gal.
Yep. That's exactly what I did.
So, Titus, you have some things to throw at us about this episode, yeah? Any thoughts?
Oh yeah. I don't know if you guys remember because it was a while ago, but yeah, I consider this to be I mean, I think this is kind of a sister two-parter to the two-parter in season 3. What was it? Improbable.
Is the Dias cast?
Improbable Cause.
Yeah, Improbable Cause and the Dias cast. It's very much Garrick centric, and having to do with that fleet that went to the Gamma Quadrant. But but yeah, no, this might be the beginning of my favorite two-parter in all of Star Trek. It has just so many things that I really like about it. I took some notes, so I'll refer to those a little bit here.
Yeah.
Of course, it has a great Worf Dax scene, and of course, there's people might have more they want to say about these, so I'll just mention them real quick. But yeah, great Worf Dax stuff towards the beginning. I loved the Worf Sisko back and forth. At the first sign of betrayal, I will kill him, but I promise to return the body intact. Worf was a little insolent, perhaps, to his commanding officer because he's like, "I assume that's a joke. We will see."
Yeah.
But I loved the pairing of Garak and Worf because I really like the character of Garak, and I guess I'm a little straight-laced here, but I always was rooting for Garak sort of becoming a legitimate good guy. I liked trying to appeal to his better angels and stuff. And to me, I've come to this point to really respect Worf as a man of honor. And if Worf even a little bit was willing to give him an endorsement, that's a big deal. And as it's not like they're buddies and stuff, but as you'll see in the little preview of the next episode, there might be some possible respect there between those characters, and to me that's always a big deal. So I loved pairing those two characters together to see could they maybe somewhat kind of get along and work together. And I've realized one trope that I just love in storytelling in general is garbled transmissions. Oftentimes, really important things are being relayed in garbled transmissions. And in this case, it's Jem'Hadar, build up, and then imminent. And then, we're losing contact with whatever the listening posts in the Gamma Quadrant are. But to me, that was such awesome build up. And they'd already been kind of flirting with the Dominion threat for a while now. So that was a huge deal to me. And then, of course, in the Gamma Quadrant, we have the sort of the official introduction of General Martok as part of the recurring cast. We got to see the two-eyed version earlier in the show, but now he's really going to become a guy we're seeing quite on the regular. And I really liked the teamwork, and I guess we'll probably see more of that in the second half. But I love the teamwork between Martok and Tain and Bashir and then is it a Vulcan lady?
Breen.
Probably a Romulan lady because the Romulan fleet was with the Cardassian fleet. It's like an Obsidian Order and Tal Shiar group.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, that's a good one. And then what I would consider perhaps the greatest out of left field moment in Star Trek history, and that's the appearance of Bashir. And it was one of those things that I think only DS9 could have pulled off. I don't know that any other series to date has switched uniforms in such a major way mid-season. So I definitely paid attention to those details because I liked the new uniforms and stuff, but it was definitely a big switch. And I took note of the fact it had been about 2.5 months in airtime since those old uniforms had appeared.
Awesome.
The Ascent was aired November 25th, 1996. This episode aired on February 10th, 1997. It was ages. And all of that immediately clicked when I see Bashir, and I'm like, he's wearing the old uniform. Wait, are you telling me we haven't seen him in more than 2.5 months? That just blew my mind. Just understanding the ramifications of that and what it meant for the station and all that. So those are some of the things. And of course, there's a huge twist brewing for the second part that still, like we mentioned, hasn't quite been revealed. But to me, just make this maybe the best two-parter I've ever seen for Star Trek.
Well, Titus, let me just point out that you are one of the few people to get a Homer Frizzell smile and nod instead of frown and shake head. You're one of the few people, so those were very good points.
Awesome. Thank you, Homer.
And we forgot, by the way, to mention our favorite segment, which is Who Are You Wearing? I'm counting at least 3 walking art made by Melissas. We've got one right here. That's the chat pack.
Ooh.
We've got Homer as well. Which one is that? Is that the Henceforth?
Oh, Henceforth.
Speaking of Mary Chifo.
So cool. Yes.
And Eve, I hope you don't mind, but we're going to spotlight you as well. Wait, there it is. Cat pack.
Oh, wait. And check out Eve's earrings.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is this the
So cool.
Yeah, they're invisible. I don't know if you can.
They're
Look at that.
on
A lot
bird
of really cool
praise.
stuff.
It's cloaked.
Oh
That's
wow!
epic.
Dude.
I love that.
Oh,
That is the
Obviously, had
coolest
to like
thing.
order copycat ones.
So
Now I also
so
see
cool.
Those
see
are so
two
cool.
Abyssinian kiosks, if I am
Mhm.
correct here. Mohammed is Abyssinian kiosk right here. That is
In the house.
Cirroc's sister.
Really nice design.
And Sue, we're going to spotlight you in a second here. That's the
Oh,
Sisko Kid
okay.
variety.
I love that pink one.
Beautiful.
Oh, that means
Oh,
there are
nice.
3.
Pretty.
Oh, there's another one, is there?
Yeah, Cirroc.
The Rock, yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, this is an old school one. Yeah.
No way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I might.
Awesome.
The sweatshirt.
Nice.
I kept the sleeve off the sweatshirt, but it's
Oh
it's actually highly
I love-
Selassie.
Yeah.
Wait, you Garricked it?
Stop making him stand up, you
Yeah.
guys.
I did
So
I must from there as well. This is Abyssinian kiosk too, especially for today.
beautiful
Oh,
stars.
wow. That one.
Celebrating.
Wait a minute, hang on. I got
That's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
She's celebrating with us. Thank
Yay.
you for participating in American holidays.
She's like, no
I don't
problem,
know.
traders.
Yeah.
So the walking art made by Melissa Designs, that's walkingartmadebymelissa.com. You can find that link in the description box below. The Abyssinian kiosk ones is abyssiniankiosk.com. You can find that in the description box below. And finally, it looks like Melissa is wearing a Be Kind shirt. That is Chase Masterson's team. BeKindMerch.org, I believe, is the link for that. BeKindMerch.org. Yes, Homer?
Good memory.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Good
Wait,
stuff.
and I have a Teespring shirt on. For you
Oh.
guys. With discount
Right,
available
yeah.
on the Patreon site.
Yes. So that is teespring.com/the7th rule. You can definitely find that in the description box below. That's our online store. If you are a patron, certain levels get you really good discounts. All right, let's talk about this episode a little bit more. Anybody else have any fun thoughts on it? Homer.
I have a question
Okay.
for Cirroc. How are you able to only watch one part and not watch next week's episode immediately after? Or did you?
Time. Probably.
Yeah, no, I was very tempted, but time is the big restriction. Yes, Ryan got it right. This to me, I was like, this is a movie. This felt like a movie. And when you watch something and you're thinking, wow, this is like a movie quality script, and the way the action's playing out, and the way there's so many sub storylines, and they're all just kind of hitting you over the head one by one, where you're like, oh my god, that's true. Oh, and then Bashir's here too, and Marta, and this and that, and that's his dad. You're like, I mean,
It's better than a movie.
It's just like one thing after another, and I'm thinking, wow, this could have easily have been like 3 or 4 episodes. Like there was so much in it. The whole Zial storyline could have been either a or B plot of just its own episode, right? Dukat not happy with his daughter dating Garrick or whatever. That could have just been a whole storyline by itself, but they threw in so much more, and I was just eating it up. I was just eating it all up. I loved it. I'm gonna have to agree with Titus. This is looking like the first half of my favorite 2-parter. I haven't seen the second half of it, but it's looking like it.
It's crazy it's not a cliffhanger like between seasons. It's just so good.
Yeah, it really was a stunner to come not at the end of the season or at the beginning. It's just sort of like a bolt out of the blue in the middle, or a little past the middle. And I forgot to mention the huge revelation with Tane and as the father of Garrick. I mean, I love that moment, and sort of the confirmation for the viewer when they cut to that shot of Bashir as he sits up and like, what the crap?
Yeah.
That was huge.
They're like the plot lines that are usually like A and B plot go to like H. It's amazing.
I saw what they did as well. It's just so sinister how because it was amazing that when you saw Bashir in his old uniform, which in itself was amazing, and then when they cut back to the station when they were talking about wonder what he's up to and we've got to stop his plan, and you can see that lift he's like really straight faced, obviously as the changeling being himself, and then when he's got to put on his face to get out into ops, he smiles. And I just thought that moment of when he goes from that serious, that was so sinister. And then you see his legs over where O'Brien is doing his work there. And then you think, oh gosh, what's going to happen? And then he just got the sandwiches, and you just think that to me is just my favorite scene of the whole episode, actually, because I just thought it just captures that sort of sense of suspense and sinister. The way that Bashir is just so sinister in that section. So I just think that the way that they just filmed and shot the whole thing was just at all of the different levels, that, the huge action sequences, the tiny detail and subtleties as well. Yeah, I agree. It's just an amazing episode, and I had to really work hard not to watch the next one because I knew I'd get confused.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just love that Worf and Dax moment too. It's just
That
such
was
a
hilarious.
cute, real relationship moment, of people who completely know each other, and it's just adorable. I love it.
I love the nose snub at Next Generation where Garrick said, "I'd like to get my hands on that fellow Earl Grey and tell him a thing or two about tea leaves."
That was awesome.
It was so good.
So, Homer, it looked like you had something to add as well, yeah?
Titus really did a good job covering a lot of this. So I'll just pick up on some things that he said or didn't say. One of the things that struck me is this continuing evolution of the relationship between Bashir and Garrick. And so Bashir is in that room, and Tane specifically asks him if he's alone.
Yeah.
And Garrick has been really secretive. Well, he's always really secretive, but for this particular moment, he's letting Bashir in to whatever is going to happen. So I thought that was a nice moment. There's a hint at something that's going to happen in the next episode when they talk about Tane and all of the hours and hours he spent getting things set up to send the message and to help to have them escape. And then I'm wondering how, those were big ass sandwiches that Bashir brought to those guys, and I wonder what they were, and it must have been messy.
Yeah, it looked like he knew how to make a sandwich.
Yeah.
Given the reveal, it almost seemed like he was going to be poisoning him or something.
Yeah.
But then,
I thought
it was
so
harmless.
too. I really thought so.
I was like, do not
It's like,
take
oh, they're
food
going to be
from this
asleep.
person.
Yeah.
Mm.
Plus,
It's
isn't
just
there
turkey.
a food replicator nearby?
Yeah. And I
Was
think
it really that helpful? I felt like
Yeah,
something
that's true.
suspicious. They can make their own
Yeah.
food.
And
And
are
I
they
think that-
really allowed to eat on the bridge?
Yeah, exactly.
Practical.
Or Garrick in the
Yeah, we have
shuttlecraft
one
just
of those
putting his
Roombas.
tea on the console.
Roombas.
Oh, okay.
Roombas.
Yeah, we have some things that just vacuum clean and go around. You've
And
seen them.
Exocom.
Exocom.
Comes.
Yeah.
The tea on the console was evidence that Garrick isn't Starfleet material.
Yeah,
No
he's
way.
not.
That's some.
Though I like that moment where he had Worf going.
That's some Sonia Gomez
great.
level.
I loved his
other
comment about how
thing-
you have to practice. That was great.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
awesome. And I think the Jem'Hadar
yes.
were really nice. I mean, they let Bashir shave, so he only had 1 or 2 days of growth instead of a month. Clearly, Cardassians don't have to, so that's fine for them. And Martok, who knows?
I wasn't sure, when they're all in the prison, why they keep them there. Were they? I don't know if they explain it later on. Is why they didn't just kill them, or were they using them to understand what those people were like to be able to copy them? That was the only one thing. My only nitpick is because I wasn't sure why they wouldn't just kill them.
Makes more sense with the next episode because then, it makes more sense for at least some subset of them in the next episode.
Yeah, I definitely put that in my notes too. Wouldn't they just kill them all? But there's something
Maybe
more
they want
to
it for weird trades.
Yeah,
exactly. And if they end up making peace, then they can release that subset.
it's true.
And they give them pretty good quarters too. Not only are they taking care of them, but they all have little homes. You know, they can come and go as they please.
Yeah,
that's
it's
kind of nice. You know, just like that.
I was thinking that too. I was like, why would they just kill them? But then I was like, well, maybe it's a way to study each species and how they carry themselves and how they react in certain situations, because they had kind of many different kinds of species there. So, Klingon, Green, Romulan, Cardassian. So, and they're all going to behave kind of differently, especially in captivity. And then what better way to learn the strengths and weaknesses of your enemies, specifically the Klingons, than to, engage in hand-to-hand combat. And then I was thinking, why did they take Dr. Bashir? But then I was like, well, one, people tend to talk or have conversations with the doctor around without even really, noticing them. Plus, they could help heal the Klingons so they could fight again.
Oh, that's true.
Also, he's the one that's administering all the tests and stuff like that. So he would be able to know if other people aren't themselves, but who's checking the doctor.
Oh, that's smart. And then also, if you ever get in some sort of weird standoff with the Federation, it would be a really great way to buy time and mess with them. To be like, oh, well, we have Bashir and we'd trade him back to you, and then screw them over on the trade.
Yeah, they did say they verified their identities, right? They did say, yeah, we checked them out and we verified their identities. So they know who each person is that is in their captivity.
Yep.
So I'm sure they're looking at it like bargaining chips. That's General Martok. That's this. They're worth something.
This way they didn't have little spy cams in the rooms, and then because it seems like that would have been, if they were going to observe people, it seemed like they would have had spy cams and seeing what they're doing.
Totally. Or who knows, who trusts that Breen to be a real Breen?
Yeah, right.
We don't know. He's maybe just a nanny cam.
Nanny cam.
I'm thinking that Breen is Princess Leia.
Breen nanny cam.
That is an excellent reference. Right?
I was just thinking how we just came up for the uniform and basically talked about how Eddington had infiltrated them all this time. And now we just come off of that episode and now we know Bashir is infiltrating them. And I'm just thinking the amount of damage Eddington was able to do by rewiring the whole systems. What is Bashir or this fake Bashir able to do? And what has he already done? It starts making me wonder oh man, this is bad.
Real quick, Sue, was that you that mentioned the Princess Leia Breen connection?
Yes.
Beautiful. Check this out.
Yeah, I love it.
Isn't this great? Because this is the Breen on the left, and on the right is Princess Leia in Return of the Jedi, I believe it was, right?
Yeah. Wore it better.
Breen. Foreshadowing too.
Yeah.
That was fun.
All right. Anybody else have any thoughts on this episode? Darlena, Sue?
This was a really great episode. This is one of those episodes that I always tell people, DS9 has these episodes that are totally they can either be a great movie or a stage play. And it's just the back and forth and all the little mysteries and then hearing some of the not so popular characters that you don't see them every episode. But when you see them, they're powerful, what they have to say and how they evolved, and the whole thing with ZL. It was just amazing. I love this episode. And it was hard to not, it's just, you got to be able to get out the house. You got to go to work. You just cannot watch Star Trek when you have stuff to do.
You can try.
It's hard.
You can try. And you think that, and my family cracks up. They're like, you've seen these episodes 100 times. What's the big deal? I said, but you don't understand. The next one comes out.
Exactly. This is one you can watch 1,000 times and it's still amazing every time.
It's still a good watch.
You know
just
what, though?
Things,
Sorry, Eve, what'd you say?
I was saying, the more you watch it, you just pick up different nuances, I find. I don't think I'd spotted the Bashir smile before, but this time that sort of really struck a chord with me, and I was like, that's just so good.
Brilliant. And Darlena, yeah, as soon as you mentioned a stage play, I pictured that the entire scenes at the internment camp as you could absolutely do that as a stage play. That's so good. Yes. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so we have 3 minutes left of this free-for-all. Now, before we hit record, we were talking incessantly about juice. So let's go around the table real quick and tell us your favorite juice, starting with Sue, because she went down like, I knew he was going to say this. Oh, wait, she's holding it.
Oh, wow.
Pomegranate.
Yum. Melissa?
This is too difficult a question. because
we ask the hard
Yeah, have you
questions
seen
here.
Melissa's Instagram? There's so many healthy juice pictures.
because it depends on my mood. Sometimes, some days only apple juice will do, and then some days only orange juice will do. And like today, I probably would pick pineapple juice, but tomorrow it could be watermelon. So I don't know. Juice is good.
Yeah. What about you, Homer? Favorite juice or juices?
Well, I'm sure this answer won't be accepted, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Prune
I like
juice?
fermented grape juice.
Huh.
But if that doesn't
It took
fly,
me way too long to get that.
What kind of grape juice?
Fermented grape juice.
Fermented.
It's still juice.
It is.
But,
It's wine.
if
One of
Wine.
your 5 a day is definitely
Yeah.
one of your
Juice
5 a day.
wine.
But
Wine.
Oh, you mean wine?
Yes.
Drinking that wine and
Yes.
smoking them tweeds.
Tomato.
And tomato.
Tomato juice.
Tomato is the top juice for me that hasn't been modified, I guess.
Got it. So wine and Bloody Marys. Cool, Homer.
Yeah, you got it. With a
Titus?
chunk of celery.
Titus, what do you
Oh
say?
yeah, Bloody Marys. That's a good one.
I guess probably maybe cran grape juice. It's ocean spray, I think. Cran grape is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Darlena?
two.
Good one.
No, it's a
Apple.
blend.
Apple and Eve apple juice. That's my favorite juice. I drink apple juice a lot. Yeah, cold days, hot days, with any type of food. Then I'll switch off to grape juice, Welch's. It's got to be a specific brand. You just can't give me any apple juice. It has to be specific brands. But yes, apple
What is
juice.
this? Tree top?
What do you think, Eve? Do you have any crazy brands that we don't know about out in UK, or crazy blends of like prune juice and pineapple juice and tomato juice?
No, we don't tend to have. It's got better. We don't. Tropicana do loads of different types of fruit juices. But I've got probably two. It's got to be freshly squeezed orange juice, and then that just wins hands down all the time. And more places sell that now fresh, which is amazing. But pineapple juice is also one of my favorites, and it makes a fantastic margarita as well.
Mohamed, your thoughts?
I'm going to say strawberry banana, and specifically the brand Naked, and not Bolthouse Farms. That's not nearly as good. The Naked
But
brand
it's way
one.
cheaper. It's
I
less
know, it is.
expensive.
It's worth the extra 50 cents to go with the Naked.
Go with the Naked.
Okay,
Like
we need some sponsors for this.
Yeah, it's like $4. Anne Marie, you have a favorite juice?
Orange juice with a ton of pulp, or and my runner-up is Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a juice now.
Cirroc, do you have a favorite juice?
Yes, vodka. It's no.
Potato juice.
Not fruit.
Right?
Otherwise, it would work.
Yes, my favorite juice in the world is in Ethiopia. It is an avocado mango juice that they make. And there's plenty of avocados in Ethiopia and plenty of mangoes, and they actually mix it together. And you would think that it's not good, but it is unbelievable.
Sounds amazing.
That's
And you're going to have it real soon.
And I'm about to have it every single day I'm there. I'm getting one avocado mango juice a day.
Enjoy.
You deserve more than one.
Great for your skin. Great for your skin. Great for your complexion too. It's really healthy stuff.
Wow.
You know, it's funny that you. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Cirroc, just want to ask quickly, how long is the flight to Ethiopia? Because I do have that on my list of countries to visit.
Yeah, it's about 20 hours. 20 hours of flight time. That's not including the layovers and stops that you make on the way.
My mind just double blown.
It might be less for you, Darlena, since you're on the East Coast.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Right.
Oh, that's true.
Way less.
To get there,
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Are you
because they're
coming
10
from the
hours,
west
10,
or
11,
the
12
east?
hours ahead. So I'm going to be headed eastward it goes from here to either DC or Chicago, one of those cities, and then stops, and then you take off. And sometimes you stop in Dubai, depending on the airlines you fly. Some stop in Emirates, some stop in Dubai, some stop in London, and some are direct.
Wow.
So I think I'm taking the direct flight once I make the first stop here in the United States. And yeah, it's going to be 20 hours. It'll take me two days to get there, because when you factor in the time change, essentially that takes me 2 days.
Are you
you
gonna Emirates Air? I'm curious.
Pardon me?
Are you flying Emirates Air? Emirates Airlines?
No, I'm not. We have to not fly them because they have really strict COVID rules now. You can't enter into the country. You can only stay at the airport. And there's a bunch of COVID rules now that are affecting countries like Dubai and Emirates, where they're making very strict rules, and so we're trying to go around those. That's why I want to fly directly into Ethiopia, because the overnight rules, and plus the the way it works is you have to be tested just before you fly, and you have a certain window. And if you fly Emirates, you have to stay overnight, which shortens that window. So basically, it's about time and the rules in the countries. Yeah, so it's kind of you have to strategize which place you're gonna go to first, so you don't get stuck in a country and have to quarantine for 14 days in Dubai before before I even get there. So you don't want to do that.
Wow. Cirroc, when you made the potato juice joke, I swear I was waiting for you to say your favorite juice was gin but we didn't get that one.
Hey, where's the Bajorans cowbell?
Sorry.
Sipping on gin and juice.
Definitely for me, orange with a lot of pulp. Somebody said I definitely agree with that. Although when I went to Hawaii as a kid, I discovered the guava juice was just so good. That's a good, refreshing beverage. Anyway, we do have to run. Thank you, Anne-Marie, Homer, Sue, Eve, Mohamed, Darlena, Melissa, and Titus for joining us. Everybody at home, have a great day. Have a great August.
Keep your ears open.
And always remember the 7th rule.